Human beings grow up. They go through various different stages at various different times in their life. The process of growing up doesn't actually come to an end, but carries on throughout your entire life. Sometimes you may grow forward, sometimes backwards, and sometimes, supposedly, sideways. What it means to grow will change depending upon where you are at that time and where the person you are getting involved with is at that time as well, and how you engage with them. When we as humans get involved in relationships, we often enter them with certain presuppositions on the basis of our past experience, the reasoning ability that we've developed, and our desires to try and create something for our future. It is often assumed by the human individual that the other human individual that you're getting involved with will see the world in the same way. This is a fallacy, essentially, because we are all very different, no matter what, no matter whether we dress the same, belong to the same social or economic groups or classes. We are all very different people, and all people are very different people. Even those which are incredibly similar will have some differences, whether they are ideological, political, spiritual, or emotional. Relationship connections are incredibly deep and incredibly intricate, and trying to understand the person you're with will require a lot of wit and a lot of intelligence. And this is one of the reasons why people consult with me on relationships, just so they can have a conversation with someone who's removed from the subject. If we were to think carefully about the fact that we are very different, and when we do get into a relationship with somebody, we get into the relationship with somebody who is different to us, we can understand where lots of the problems come from. There are often problems with borders and barriers that need to be laid down. Some people call these things boundaries. There's often a presupposition that you have sufficiently laid down a boundary. There's a presupposition that the other individual understands the boundaries which you have laid down. Sometimes there's presuppositions that the boundaries don't need to be laid down, and they are already there and understood. In reality, this is very seldom the case, and there will always be, even in the best relationships in the whole wide world, issues of boundaries not being somehow right, issues of misunderstanding, misinterpretation, and all of these things will have an impact upon the quality of happiness of the two people involved in the relationship. Even the most accepting, peaceful person can find these things infuriating, and it can cause a great deal of problems between the two people who are involved. And this is one of the reasons why we have relationship counseling. But relationship counseling itself, without being able to isolate the specific issues which one needs to have acceptance in, can be difficult. The two parties need to both be willing, when often there is one individual who is more stubborn than the other, or indeed there may be stubbornness on both sides of things, and the other individual, or indeed yourself, may measure progress in the relationship by how much the other individual succumbs to yours or their things that they're stubborn about, which is, again, a major difficulty. Flexibility is one of the things which is lacking in most relationships, or so it seems, but needs to be incorporated in order to allow there to be a free flow of ideas. And no, a free flow of ideas is not a blazing row, which some people seem to think that it is. A free flow of ideas would be willingness of the individual who has a problem with the other individual to be flexible about the thing which he or she has an issue with. That doesn't always happen, and in fact it can't always happen. And if you were to realize and recognize where the border or boundary lies, and you are to knowingly or willingly cross it, then you may be deliberately creating some problems. Emotional control is another issue which has to be dealt with or tackled in a relationship itself. It's a very rare force, but it can exist or it can be encouraged. This can sometimes happen with the help of meditation. Yes, religion is a good way of doing things, as well as some of the basic things such as time together, recreation, and so on and so forth. The aspects of the relationship which can be maintained through time together and recreation will be variable depending upon the other commitments that you might have in a relationship. And yes, time together is something which can both create a relationship as well as break it. Unfortunately, there is no singular formula for complete and utter relationship success. This is why a great deal of introspection, creativity, and depth of thought is required when one is choosing to be involved in a relationship. The long-term game plan, the way that we envisaged it when we were younger, very rarely manifests itself. This is because people change, ideas change, thoughts change, and also the era that you're living in will also change, and the things which are regarded as being normal will change during that time. So a relationship itself is a very complex intellectual force, and it has to be reckoned with in an intellectual way as well as in an emotional way. One of the other problems that can be dealt with or can be experienced in a relationship is that of the nature of the connection. Some people feel the relationship as something which they call a connection. But the feeling of a connection isn't necessarily with the person that they are with. It might be with somebody else, despite the fact that the person that they're with is providing them with everything that they need and require. The head does have to rule the heart, but with practice one can learn to direct the heart in the right direction, and one can also learn when to invest the heart and how to invest the heart in relationships themselves. That's why a relationship is a grown-up thing. That's why it requires maturity. But again, these things can be learned with the passage of time.